This 5-year-old girl disappears every night after dinner. Her father decides to follow her. When he discovers the shocking truth and sees who his daughter meets every night, he starts crying and immediately calls the police, then calls a local news station. He can't understand how his daughter was able to do this without realizing for so long. If my wife and I had discovered it earlier, we would have intervened as soon as possible. It was the 4th day in a row that Tom found his daughter's room empty, always at the same time between 6 and 7 p.m. Emma was rarely away from home for more than an hour or so. She usually played in the garden at the back of the house, but for several nights she'd been going out, so her father became concerned.
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
When Tom asked his daughter what was going on, Emma would remain quiet without explanation, just saying that she had to keep going out. But Tom had to know what was going on. Where was his daughter going every night? He wondered day after day. He realized he wasn't going to get an answer from his daughter, so Tom decided to investigate on his own. On the 5th day, when Emma slipped out of the house right after dinner, Tom rushed out to check her room. He was determined to learn the truth. He rushed upstairs and immediately opened the closet wide. Clothes strewn all over the room and toys were everywhere. He searched and searched but found nothing until he saw a piece of paper under the pillow. What would the mysterious note say? Eyes wide, Tom pushed the pillow aside, lifted the note and began to read, "Come to the house behind your yard at 6 o'clock. Be sure to come alone." What the frick was going on? Why would his daughter have to show up alone for several days, and who was the sender of the strange message? There was only one thing to do. He had to follow his daughter. It was the 6th day and Tom was ready. He waited impatiently in his room with the door ajar. This way he could keep an eye on little Emma. "If she suddenly leaves, I'll follow her closely," he heard himself speaking aloud. The clock struck 6 p.m. and his thoughts distracted him. His daughter had vanished. She was just no longer there. Tom ran to the back door just in time because he saw Emma disappear into the trees behind his house. When Tom reached the edge of the forest, he lost sight of Emma, but he already knew the house he had to go to because it was written down on the piece of paper, so catching up with his daughter wasn't too difficult. The 50-acre farm where Tom and his family lived had belonged to his relatives for almost 100 years, and the mysterious house used to be his grandparents' house. No one had lived there for over 50 years, but when it all came to it, he felt an intense fear like never before. Someone was waiting on the balcony. Tom hid behind a tree and decided to wait for his daughter there. "What's Emma doing there?" wondered the worried father. He didn't have to wait long because after a few minutes, Emma arrived at the other side of the lot. She knocked hard on the door with her little fist and instantly the mysterious person disappeared from the balcony. The door opened and Emma walked in. Who was that mysterious person and what were they doing inside the house? And more importantly, what were they doing with Emma? Tom acted immediately. He had the key to the old building and stealthily opened the back door. Slowly but surely, he entered the room where he heard his daughter talking to a stranger, clearly a woman's voice. Tom was outside the room and tried to get a glimpse of what was going on inside, but they looked busy. Tom heard several footsteps, but not only from his daughter and the mysterious woman, and suddenly Emma opened the door. Tom ducked behind the door before his daughter ran out of the room. She left that place and will probably go back home, thought Tom. At that point, he could follow his daughter, but first he had to find out why this woman was so special to Emma. He opened the door and was stunned when he saw what was behind the room. There were over 20 dogs, and in the corner sat the woman he was looking for. What the frick is going on here, he wondered. The woman was very scared and tried to run away, but Tom stopped her. "You are going to tell me what you're doing here and why you're seeing my daughter every day in secret." The woman, who looked confused, burst into tears and sat back in her chair. She took a deep breath and explained her sad story to Tom. "If my wife and I had discovered it earlier, we would have intervened as soon as possible," Tom later told the media. The woman was elderly and had seen friends and family members die over the years. She was alone and lived in a nursing home near Emma's school. "I was totally lonely," the elderly woman told Tom, "and just after I turned 80, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to run away from the nursing home, but no one could know because otherwise they'd take me back." For over a year, the woman was living on the streets with all her stray dogs. She was very malnourished until she met little Emma. The dogs were all the family she had, but in a very short time they had many puppies. The lady was having a hard time taking care of herself and her dogs and knew her end was near, until she met this special little girl. During her break from school, Emma told her about the house on her farm and said she could live there. "Insecurely and secretly, I'd been living here for a month," she told Tom. "But soon I ran out of food because I had to share it with my animals. But then your dear Emma wanted to help me again." For the past week, Emma had been visiting the old woman and the dogs every day. She would play with them and ask her if they were okay, But when the food ran out, the little girl couldn't do anything. Still, every day she grabbed as much food as she could from her house to give it to the woman and her dogs. It wasn't much, but it was enough to survive, the lady told Tom. Tom burst into tears after hearing her sad story. Quickly, he went home to talk to his daughter. When he got home, Emma was sitting in a chair in the yard. Tom ran after her and gave her a huge hug. He told his daughter that he'd followed her and was aware of everything that was going on with the old lady and her dogs. "You're not in trouble, honey, but please don't keep any more secrets from me, okay?" His worries that day turned into admiration and pride in his little girl. He told a story to his wife, and Emma's parents did something amazing. As a family, they decided to help the old lady, Linda, and her dogs. Linda could now live in the house without paying anything, and from then on she would have enough food for her and her dogs. But that wasn't all. Thanks to a community fundraiser, they were able to raise enough money to officially transform the house into a stray dog shelter. At the moment, Linda, Emma, and her parents take care of about 40 stray dogs, 15 of which have already been adopted. Emma receives beautiful photos and letters from the happy owners, and it's all thanks to the bravery of this little 5-year-old girl.
If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.